Quail Springs is an educational and land stewardship nonprofit organization dedicated to demonstrating and teaching holistic ways of designing human environments, restoring and revitalizing the land and community, and facilitating deeper understandings of ourselves and one another through immersive experiences in nature. We're a dedicated group of people, teachers, farmers, natural builders, inspired chefs, and land stewards who strive to further our mission through working, living, and teaching within the ethics of permaculture, earth care, people care, and fair share. Quail Springs is located in the coastal ranges of the Southern California mountains, in a quiet canyon stretching east of the Cuyama River, surrounded on three sides by the ruggedly beautiful Los Padres National Forest. The story of Quail Springs is one of many. It's the story of a generation who work to continue to move the arc of kinship towards connection with the whole world and to learn how to age generously in a world where their wisdom helps foster new leaders that remember where they came from.
Quail Springs taught me how to not just think about what I'm getting from the land or from the earth or just from nature, but how can I really work with nature? How can I be a partner with nature to have us both benefit? Quail Springs provides an opportunity that young people in underserved area wouldn't have otherwise. Just be reintroduced to life, to nature, to working with not just the earth, but working with one another again.
Quail Springs cracked me radically open, not only in my worldview, but in my view of myself. And it gave me a new passion to not only want to share the design philosophy that permaculture offers, but the experience of that cracking open to others. And I think the biggest thing that Quail Springs taught me about relationship building was the depth that was possible in relationships. It wasn't just about this bigger force in the world needing to change the world, but changing the world through my own perception and through the subtle ways that I was engaging in my relationships, both in the natural world and with people. And that cracked me open to this whole new understanding of permaculture, where it wasn't just something that I would apply to what I do, but it could be what I do.
Being at Quail Springs, every step you take, you feel these relationships. From death comes life. And these things that we love and that we cherish and we raise will be our source of energy and our source of vitality. Quail Springs has taught me about the relationship between living and the recycling of energy and nutrients through not only the land, but the people that thrive from the land.
Quail Springs taught me to be more aware of things and be aware of our surroundings. They made me feel welcomed and they made me feel confident, which was really hard for me at that time. I learned a lot of stuff about myself that I didn't know. Opening up to everyone and telling my story grew me to be more confident about myself and my motivation in life. It made me realize what I want to do in the future. And I was confused back then. I was really confused about what I wanted to do, and it opened up my mind.
Quail Springs taught me how to be a genuine human being at a time when I was just entering adulthood. Because you can learn permaculture in a classroom. That would have not been at all the same. If you're just sitting in the classroom learning about community building as theory, that's not super helpful, because that's one of the things that I think it's the most impossible to learn about from a book. Because you can't make friends with your book, You can't support your book through a hard time. But when you're doing this practically, it makes a big difference.
Quail Springs is not just a permaculture site. Our visitors come from urban city centers and deserted farmlands, university campuses and government offices. Quail Springs tends the soil for healthy human beings mobilized to respond.
Before I went to Quail Springs, I was filled with despair because I didn't know how I fit in with a world that was in so much pain. And yet, after coming back home from Quail Springs, I started to understand, based on this permaculture principle of design from pattern to detail, that there was another way of looking at the world. That urbanization itself could be an amazing opportunity for us to understand that just as there is the interconnection of roots and mycelium in the ground that connect plant life, the same metaphors of roots connect us as people. We have an opportunity to heal ourselves. Being at Quail Springs healed me. And one thing I learned from Quail Springs was that healing our world begins with healing ourselves.
At Quail Springs, we move from fright to connection, and we do it with the land, with ourselves, with our local community of Cuyama, and with the hundreds of hopeful people who visit us each year from across the planet, hungry for a living alternative to despair.
The future of our work here at Quail Springs, but also in different places around the world, is in the youth programs. It's this important aspect of being able to mentor the next generation now in the best we can with how to root their umbilical cord in the earth. Redesigning our landscape has to be a part of redesigning the landscape of humanity as well. In our designs, we also have to remember the care of the people is so important. And I feel in that coming together authentically as we're planting our food, as we're making our clothes, we make beautiful mistakes together and we have great successes together, that's when you start to see the very beginning parts of culture come to life. I still feel very new here because I realize it's going to take 200 years for this village to develop here to be completely intact with place. We're really so humbled by the thought of planting trees that we may never sit under the shade of.
Altogether, the story of Quail Springs is an active hope, a living example planting the seeds for the next 7 generations. Join us today and help us plant those seeds.